Welcome, everybody, and welcome back to the Leches Sports podcast. I'm Gilly Matos. As always, joined by my colleagues, my friends, Uri Berenguer, Omar Cabrera, and as always, we're brought to you in conjunction with El Mundo Boston. But how are you doing? Longtime baseball announcer Uri Berenguer.
Yo, what's up, Gil? I'm doing good, bro. I'm doing good. I was actually just realizing how much I love being able to stretch and get up and sit down without any problems. Like, my back has such good mobility. I feel great. How about you?
No, not good. These herniated discs are definitely acting up.
What a jerk.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Also joined by true friend, New England Patriots and New England Revolution reporter, Omar Cabrera. How you doing, Om?
Oh, Gil, man. First of all, man, I hope you get better soon. Don't listen to Yuri, man. You know how he does.
He goes to kissing your ass. We've talked about this before. That's Omar. That's Omar, niño bueno, el que todo el mundo quiere que sea su amigo. Oh, he's so nice. He goes to church. You should be more like him. Man, no, you don't know him. You don't know him.
Friend. You should stop being nice to your friend.
Quítate la máscara.
To answer your question,
Quítate la máscara.
I'm happy today because the MLS announced a new calendar for the season. So Revolution is almost ready to go, starting next month in April. So que comience a rodar el balón.
I can't ruin your day. I know you got it. You got it made, brother. Good for you.
There you go.
As always, the Leches Sports podcast, bringing you three topics in the world of sports. And as always, as I said, brought to you in conjunction with El Mundo Boston. But let's begin, guys, in the UFC, where Petr Yan's first bantamweight title defense turned out to be unsuccessful after Yan illegally kneed Aljamain Sterling in the head while he was grounded, rendering him unable to complete the fight. The referee and doctor both came into the ring into the octagon and started questioning and asking him if he wanted to continue and whatnot. But anyways, Sterling could not continue, and he became the first champion in UFC history to win the title by disqualification. My question to you guys, twofold. One, do you think a belt should change hands under these circumstances? And two, should the decision to continue a fight in these circumstances be up to the fighter? Let's start off with you, Omar.
Man, Gil sucks because the title changing hands, on a DQ. Man, I don't like that. But, it sucks. That's the rule. And we have to accept it, whether it's in boxing, martial arts, whatever it might be. It sucks. But this is what I think. If that was, if that has to happen, they should have a mandatory rematch right away. And I'm talking about not right away the next day, but I'm talking about, in a span of the next month to 3 months, no longer than that. Especially because you don't want to see anyone losing the title like that. And in this case, it was his first title defense. So, that's the sad part. But I would really hope that they will have a mandatory rematch scheduled as soon as possible. And to answer the second part of your question, should it be up to the fighter? Capital yes, YES, please. Because I think that nobody knows the body better than us, the fighters. Well, I'm not a fighter, but I'm saying any sport. Nobody knows the body better than yourself. And if somebody's hurt, that person should be able to be like, you know what, I can't go anymore. And, we know fighters and boxers, man, these guys are willing to leave everything on the mat, on the ring. You know what? A lot of them are willing to die. So we know they're not going to be able to say, no, I can't go unless they really, really can't. So if it was up to me, I would leave it up to the boxers or the fighters, if it comes to MMA.
Yuri, two judges had Yan up 29-28 in the third, had Sterling up 2 rounds to 1. Omar apparently gets kneed in the head a lot. What do you think, Yuri, about this? Do you think?
Yes, dude.
Because of hate.
I'm glad I had my mic muted because, dude, I mean, I know, this goes on the internet, but dude, the profanities that were going to come out of my mouth as he was talking. Oh, my God. Are you serious, bro? Dude, how many fights have you gotten into your life? Have you ever argued with anyone? Did your mom ever beat your ass as a little kid growing up? Dude, you have no idea. You have no idea what you're talking about. You're going to leave it up to the fighter? You're going to leave it up to the fighter? You're saying that nobody knows my body. Have you ever had a concussion? You played soccer.
Yes.
You played
soccer and I have quite a few.
And there it is. That's why. Too many concussions. You have no idea what the hell you're talking about. All those concussions have messed up your damn brain. Are you serious? I'll tell you one story. And I don't want to go back, at the risk of having Gil make fun of me again, and make fun of us again, I am going to go back to high school days. And only because of this. I remember playing football, BLA. And I was playing Cathedral High. I remember loving the game because it was against my sister's high school. I'm a running back. Whatever you said. I'm a running back. I'm supposed to just do a 28 dive right up the middle. And I got crushed. I got destroyed. True story. Whatever. I got destroyed about, I don't know how many minutes later, whatever it was. I'm talking to my buddy Mike Fitz. We're on the sideline. We're on the sideline, and we start talking about something. And I go, "Hey, so how did it go? How was that play? How did that play look like?" I got hit hard. He goes, "Yuri, you ran 2 plays after that." I ran 2 plays after the play that I got hit and concussed. You know how scary it is. Here I am, 38 years old, knowing that there are 10 minutes of my life gone, disappeared, not knowing what the hell happened. 10 minutes of my life are gone. Within those 10 minutes, I have no idea what I did. I have no idea what I said. I have no idea what I did, no idea what I saw. I have no idea what happened to me. For 10 minutes of my life, forever gone. That's a concussion, Omar. You're not going to leave it up to a fighter, a competitor who's used to. Absolutely, he wants to be there. Absolutely, he wants to fight. Absolutely, like you just said, wants to give up his life if he has to. I'm ready to die. You know those famous words. Absolutely, yeah. You can't leave it up to that person. You have to protect that person from himself, from him or herself. You cannot leave it up. That's absurd. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You cannot leave it up to him after a possible concussion. That man was obviously hurt. That man couldn't stand up, Omar.
Obviously, your head is still hurting, from high school years because you know what? You misunderstood my response. I'm saying, yeah, you have to leave it up to the fighter. I'm not just saying just the fighter, the trainers. And
he should have no say. The fighter should have no say, Omar. None.
No, but I'm saying, like, if the fight is really hurting, he should be allowed to be like, no, I don't want to continue.
Omar.
Right?
Omar. Listen, there's a reason.
That's my point.
The reason why Gil sent the question over to me and said, obviously, Omar's been hit in the head 1 too many times, because your response was absurd. The fighter in that situation should have absolutely no say, none whatsoever. It's up to the ref and the doctor. It's up to the ref. Listen, is it my turn to answer or is it your turn? It's up to the ref and the doctor. Leave it at that. All right, you're absurd. You need a new lesson in the fighting game. As for should a belt be changed hands of DQs, and I'll be brief for this one, Gil. You know what? Yes, absolutely, and that's why. Because that's the rule. You are a professional fighter. That's what you do for a profession. That may be in his title defense, but not his first fight. He's been doing this his entire life. He's been preparing for that chance his entire life. This is not your first fight. That man was down in the corner, and you need him in the head. Absolutely change defense. Absolutely change belts. Change belts on a DQ. Not that anybody wants to win it that way, but you know what? You won it. You won it because you fought fair and square, and you deserve it. You deserve it. As if you're the guy who got knocked out because of a dirty move like that, one that put your life in danger, obviously an illegal move, and you lose, and all that work that you put into it to fulfill your life's dream is denied to you. That's absurd. Absolutely. You know the rules. You're a professional fighter. It's what you do for a living. Absolutely. You deserve to lose the title on a DQ.
Yeah. I thought you were going to be brief.
Well, the problem is when you know what you're talking about, it's kind of hard to shorten
it. There's a couple of things here that are mind-boggling to me. First of all, as you mentioned, Yuri, a guy of Jan's caliber, and he's an excellent fighter. He's very enjoyable to watch. He's got a hell of a mean streak that's consistent with his No Mercy nickname. But to make a mistake like that, and not know that when your opponent is down, and first of all, the referee told them too. He's grounded.
Yes, he's grounded.
But okay, that's one thing. Him not having that awareness, and in the heat of the battle, there's a lot of different things you can point to. But the other thing is the incompetence in the corner. There's 2 guys shouting over the head of the coach, giving orders in Russian, while the coach is yelling in English to him and somebody said, Khabib said that he overheard somebody in Russian say knee him in the head, and then you see it in the video too. Somebody in the corner, when he knees him, the guy claps and cheers, and the other guys are like, what the hell did he just do? Right. So, those are the 2 things that are shocking to me. I think, he's a fantastic fighter. He was on his way to winning that fight, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Sterling was gassed at that point, and it's unfortunate that he lost like that. And Dana said it too. He said they're going to run it back, as soon as they can.
Yeah.
Because and to give Sterling credit for it as well. He said all the right things. He doesn't want to win the belt that way. He threw the belt on the floor before he left the ring and all that stuff. So,
and I believe him, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, nobody wants to win it that way, right? You don't want to do it that way because people are going to clown you for it. But the belt absolutely should change hands if you're disqualified. Absolutely.
And don't ignore the other part of the question, Gil. You haven't answered that one. Should the fighter have any say in that kind of situation?
No, thanks for reeling me back on that one. They absolutely should not. I think the thing is that I understand what Omar's saying by that. Like, you should give the guy the chance to go down on his sword, or go down on his shield. But the problem is the guy was compromised. A concussed guy is going to say, yeah, he can go. And here's my point. If the NFL could rule somebody out in 2 minutes because they go through concussion protocol and everything else, why doesn't the doctor go in there and do it? Why is the doctor whispering to the referee inside the octagon and then asking the fighter 3 times if he wants to continue? Like, you need to make that decision yourself based on your medical training. So
what do you got? I know you're holding back. What you got, brother?
No, I'm good with that. No, I was actually going to say, you know what? Only in the WWE you get to keep the title after DQ.
Well, there you go. Maybe we should talk to Vince McMahon. But in the UFC in the real fight game, man, you can't do that. You can't do that. Listen, guys, and going over to my sport, or at least my sport of preference, the one that I've dedicated most time to, that's baseball. And our Boston Red Sox here in Boston, as we know, with the departure of JBJ, the Red Sox Killer Bees, as they were known, Killer Bees that were actually a crucial part of the most successful season in franchise history, and they are now officially a thing of the past. Now, I'm still kind of ticked off by all that, but it did make me think. I started wondering, now that the Killer Bees are gone, what other former Red Sox outfielder of the past, and I'm going to limit it to the last 20 years. Let's say to the last 20 years. What former Red Sox outfielder of the last 20 years, and by the way, the exception of Mookie Betts and Manny Ramirez, would you rather get back for at least a season? Which former Red Sox outfielder would you rather get back for the last 20 seasons? Excuse me, 20 seasons of the Red Sox. I'm gonna start off with I'm gonna start off with I'm sorry.
All right. Well, can I go back a little more than 20 years? Because, I was hoping you would go back more to like my lifetime, my lifetime when I
You're too old, brother. You're too old. I can't go back that far. I became
a big Red Sox fan, So if we can start back, I would say Dewey Evans. And I know you guys probably wouldn't accept my other answer, Jim Rice, but I used to love those guys. Those are the guys that really got me into becoming a big-time Red Sox fan.
What was that? It's a lot further than 20 years.
Well, maybe it's not like 40 either. It's not like 40 either. Come on now. Maybe like 30.
Dewey Evans and Jim Rice, 1980s? Yeah. We're talking about 2000 as far as you could go. You went 20 years past that.
I should have said my childhood. My bad. All right. Well, my childhood. All right. Fine. You wanted to start. All right. If you want me to say other names more recently, you got
the last 20 years.
You guys remember. Yeah, I used to love this guy, Ellis Burks. Remember him? I used to love Ellis Burks.
Yeah, he was 19. No, Ellis Burks came back after he was around with the Red Sox 2014.
He was on the 04 team, wasn't
he? The 04 team, yes.
The 04 team, yeah, there you go. But I remember him. He's just like one of those guys that, you know what? I felt like he always did everything right. Maybe he was not like a superstar, but he was like one of the guys the quiet leaders on the team. And I like that a lot about him, which leads me to the other name, Trot Nixon. I would love to always have Trot Nixon. Trot Nixon was like, one of those guys that always got his jersey dirty. And maybe he wasn't a superstar, but once in a while he came out with the clutch hits. He always made really nice plays in the right field. I used to always remember that about him. That's why I was so happy that he was on that team when they won the first World Series in so many years. And then, you want to go back to other names. I would say David Henderson, Otis Nixon.
He's just going to name every Red Sox outfielder.
And Ricky Henderson. No. You know what? I love those guys. I wish those guys came to the Sox in the primetime, though. But I used to love those guys a lot.
I am going to give Omar credit with the Ellis Burks one because, even though you kind of described the Ellis Burks prior 2004 season, he came back. He came back to the Red Sox in 04, and he was no longer, that driving force.
I was talking about the one that was drafted by the Sox.
But he was. I'm giving you credit because he was a leader. He absolutely played a leading role on that 04 season. I remember riding the train with the team and sitting with Ellis, and he was a guy who actually brought the guys together. He was one of those guys who was just absolutely a leading force. And that 04 season, that having a leader, a leader of that veteran presence was actually very, very, very important. I'm gonna go off with you, with you, Gil. Again, over the last 20 years, not going back to 40 years that Omar wanted to go. Which Red Sox outfielder would you bring back?
Well, other than Jonathan Van Every and Izzy Alcantara.
Yes,
I remember him.
I'm gonna go with a serious one here. I think I would definitely absolutely take prime Johnny Damon on this team right now. He can't. He has no arm, and I think my 7-year-old niece can throw the ball further than him. But he covers a lot of ground. He can hit the cover of the ball. He takes a lot of pitches. He's an absolute buzzsaw to get through for pitchers, and he's also lighthearted and fun to watch as well. Now we take all the DUI stuff, recent stuff away. Or whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about on the field. So I would do Johnny Damon, and if I had a second choice, I think I would do a guy that was very very underrated. I think was Troy O'Leary.
Troy O'Leary, that's right.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say Coco Crisp.
And Troy Leary actually goes back. Yeah, Troy Leary was what, early 2000s, 2001, 2002. So yeah, I'm going to go actually. Yeah, 2001, 2002, 2003. I'm not sure if he was in the 03 team or not. I have to look back at that. But yeah, Troy was definitely a presence. All those guys you guys mentioned are obviously huge. I mean, with Johnny Damon, actually, a quick story. Damon, obviously, definitely a great guy. But you mentioned his arm, his noodle arm. I remember my little cousin. I introduced him to my little cousin Sebastian, who was a big baseball fan.
It should be a segment, by the way. All-time baseball story.
And that came up. And Johnny Damon's arm came up. And, he's pretty much challenging Johnny Damon, saying he's got a better arm. Johnny Damon's response was awesome and perfect. He goes, "You know what? You may have a better arm than I do, but one thing I do is I always hit my cutoff, even if it's not on purpose with Manny Ramirez." he always hit his cutoff, though. So, yeah, I love the Johnny Damon pick. My son would never forgive me if I didn't mention his first favorite player of all time, Johnny Gomes. Go, Johnny, go, Gomes. I mean, if for anything else, just his hard determination, and his fun-loving spirit. So I got to mention Johnny Gomes. And you know what? Omar beat me to the punch. The guy that I had written down is, sure enough, Big Trot. Trot Nixon. There it is. Okay. Trot Nixon. Trot was, that dirt dog, that guy who would give it all for his team. You're right. He wasn't a superstar, but he did have some very good seasons. I mean, I love the fact that he was the last player to be drafted by good old Uncle Lou Gorman. God bless his soul, Uncle Lou, who was so good to me and to everyone. Lou Gorman. The last guy he drafted was Trot Nixon. That 2003 season, Trot Nixon was. I mean, dude, we're talking about a guy with 28 home runs, 90-some odd RBI, and just that dirt dog. That dirt dog.
I think the thing about Trot Nixon was that the teams that he was on, they definitely took on. He's kind of like the Red Sox Marcus Smart, right? Like when he's on the field, the team takes his personality on.
Absolutely.
And they like when Marcus is on the court, the team plays a lot differently, and he makes a big impact. So, that's a good choice.
He was heartbroken when he left the Red Sox. He was absolutely heartbroken. I remember that 2007 season. I actually saw him prior to the season starting for the civil rights game that I was broadcasting for XM Radio. And it was like a little kid having seen a long lost friend. He saw me. He had come off the bus. He saw me, and I swear the hug that this guy gave me is like the hug that my kids would give me nowadays. But the impression I got was like, wow, this guy just really, really missed being part of Boston. He's a Bostonian, at heart to the end of the days.
End his career with the Sox for some reason. I always thought that.
Should
have. Yeah. Well, hermanos, I know Gil's not being in Miami. He's not a big hockey guy. But, we got a hockey question here. Bruins defenseman Brandon Carlo is recovering, but will remain sidelined for quite a while. No one knows how many weeks, but that's after him receiving a vicious hit in the head at the hands of Capitals winger Tom Wilson, for which he only got a 7-game suspension. Guys, we're talking about 7 games. Yuri, do you agree with the punishment, or you think it was too lenient?
You know what I don't understand is why didn't they leave it up to Brendan Carlo to leave the game or not? Well, they should have just left it up to him. You should have left that game. If you asked Brendan Carlo, he should have kept on playing, shouldn't he have? I mean, by your logic. You know what? Yeah, they got it right. Yeah, absolutely, they got it right. That's 7. That's a big suspension. It's a suspension. 7-game suspension is absolutely significant, especially for a guy, a guy that talented. He's a great player. He's a guy. He's one of those. He's a tough-nosed hockey player. He is, he's hockey. He represents hockey perfectly. That's what that game is all about. It's a rough sport. The white boys are crazy. And those enforcers, that's what they do. You may not be the best shooter, the slapstick or whatever, but those guys that win the boards, those guys that intimidate other teams, those guys make a difference. I mean, just ask the 2019 Bruins. They lost in the finals, the Stanley Cup finals, to a St. Louis Blues team that they had beaten in every offensive aspect of the game, but in the defense, the Bruins got their asses kicked. Why?
Let's just bring it back to this though. Tom Wilson's a dirty dude, and he's
absolutely,
got a reputation of this. So it's
absolutely,
not his first,
he's a repeat offender. Yeah, he's his 5th suspension. Yeah, absolutely, he's a repeat offender. I'm not denying that. He is a dirty player, but it's a dirty game. It's a dirty game. Was he headhunting? Yes. Well, he was absolutely headhunting when he brought his shoulder up. Absolutely headhunting. Carlo is 6'5". For him to get hit in the head that way, you look at the replay, absolutely headhunting. Was it disgusting?
I'm not saying no that it's not headhunting. I'm saying no that you're saying it's a dirty game. That does not belong in the game. It's not a dirty.
No, but the rules. That's the problem is with the rules, Gil. The rules in hockey are just they're so ambiguous. There's no clear definition of. Look it up. There's no clear definition of what an upper body hit defining means or defining upper body hit. They're just so ambiguous. It leaves it open for interpretation. That's why I don't like what he did. But that's that sport. That is that sport. NFL has made progressive changes to avoid that kind of hit. The NHL really hasn't.
Sorry, I don't agree with you, but I'm gonna let Gil go first because I don't know what game you were watching or what you're talking about. But go ahead, Gil.
Yeah, I just think that it's a guy that has a reputation, a guy that has a history of doing this, and clearly when in headhunting, went in high, went in hard to the head, pushed his shoulder and his hands up into him, drove him into the boards. Like, there's nothing more egregious than that. Like, it was clear that what his intent was, and the craziest part of it all was that the referees are right there, and there was not he did not serve any type of penalty for it.
That's exactly why, because the rules are so ambiguous. There was no penalty. That's not a penalty.
That's not
so
why.
You can go headhunting and do that.
Unfortunately, that's not part of it. Yes, unfortunately, that's
part of it, and that's not part of the game. That's not part of any
no,
game.
it is.
Especially with everything that we know now about head injuries and stuff like that. That has no part of the game.
Look, cite me the rule.
I'm all for the fights. I'm all for the roughhousing. I'm all for the enforcers. I'm all for all that stuff. But when you're going headhunting and you're basically flying in at 40 miles an hour on skates and lunging into somebody head first and taking their head out, that's. I mean,
we agree in morale. But as far as the game comes, unfortunately, my interpret that's the game.
This is the same ref crew that saw Ovechkin spear Trent Frederick's dick and gave him a 2-minute penalty. Like, that's I mean, like a 2-minute penalty for that. Like,
listen, there were two refs there, Gil, and no penalty was given. What does that tell you? The rules are not clear. Give me the rule. Cite the rule that tells you that's.
If I don't know the hockey rules. I don't watch hockey enough to know.
Exactly.
I'm speaking as a sports fan, as somebody who has two eyes and can say that was definitely headhunting, and that has no spot in any sport unless it's I don't know.
The white boys is crazy. That's the problem.
I watch hockey, but I don't know specific rules about this. But I'm with Gil on this one. Like, you have to really take into consideration the guy's history. And Wilson has been suspended from 2017 to 2018 in a span of 105 games. He has been suspended 4 times. Yeah. You know what? That should just tell you right there, guys. Come on. Maybe it hasn't happened recently in the last year or two, but still, the history speaks for itself.
But that's a different debate. He's dirty. He's a dirty player. That's a different debate.
Exactly. 7 games, I just don't buy it, man. You know what? The only reason I see why they only gave him 7 games is because it's a short season due to COVID, and maybe that's why the NHL was like, all right, we can give him more games than 7.
Do you know why they suspended him?
Yeah.
Do you know why? Not because of the hit, because he's a repeat offender. The NHL said it. Then while there are aspects of this hit that may skirt the line between suspendable and non-suspendable, it is the totality of the circumstances that caused this play to merit supplemental discipline. The totality. That's what we're saying. So his history got him suspended, not that hit. The NHL is telling you that there's room to believe that it's a non-suspendable offense.
Well, I don't know why you were reading, because I was also reading this.
That's English. I just read English.
Listen, he cleared the 18-month collective bargaining window and was no longer considered a repeat offender.
Well, okay, what does that have to do with what I read to you?
Well, he's not, because it happened a while ago. He wasn't considered a repeat offender anymore.
I'm reading to you verbatim what the NHL acknowledged. Verbatim. And I mean, that itself is it. I mean, the fact that you have to accept, you don't have to accept any, or you don't have to agree with any opinion. The fact is that the rules against those hits are not clear in hockey. That is the game of hockey. It's a dirty sport.
I don't know the rules of hockey, but I'm pretty sure there's rules against head shots like that. I'm pretty freaking sure about that. Especially
they're too ambiguous. They're not clear.
Now, but
they're not clear.
All right, we're never gonna agree on this, but at least I think one thing we're all gonna agree on is that at least, you know what I loved at that game, at the end of the game, all his Bruins teammates, Carlos' teammates, man, they were like trying to kick the hell out of Wilson, and I loved that. There was actually a fight at the end, and that's how they stuck for him, And I was like, you know what, that's what real teammates do, and I love that.
Well, and I'll be honest with you. I mean, one of the things that's been missing from the Bruins this season is actually that attitude, that toughness, that grit. Everybody's talking about it, and they're missing Zdeno Chara. I mean, Zdeno Chara. that 7-foot monster, whatever, one of the reasons why they were so good is people didn't mess with him. You didn't want to have to face him. You didn't want to have to face him. And the Bruins have had these guys over the years. The Bruins have had great enforcers. One of my good buddies, one of the guys who gave me the best advice of all time, Lyndon Byers. Lyndon Byers is a guy who's known not for being a skillful player, but he was known for being the kind of guy who's going to kick your ass and he was going to stand up for every one of his teammates, simple, like it or not. And it was all what you would perceive as dirty hits. They're all hockey hits.
Shout out LB.
That's it.
Well, guys, we've reached the final segment of the show here where we give the abrazo or chancletazo. Abrazo being a hug, chancletazo being a spanking. Let's start off with you, Omar. What do you got this week?
All right, guys, I'm going to continue with my tradition for the most part, giving a big abrazo this week to the Gonzaga University men's basketball team for clinching that WCC championship with an 88-78 win over BYU and remaining perfect at 26-0. With that, keeping the dream alive to become the first unbeaten team since the 75-76 Indiana Hoosiers. And for that, they get a big abrazo de mi parte.
Do you think they're going to do it? That's a lot of pressure.
It's hard, bro. It's hard. There have been a few teams in the last years. We had Kentucky, we had Wichita State, who were, perfect going into the tournament. It's really hard.
Yeah, but that was different though. It was Wichita State. Nobody really expected them to make a run. I mean, they were undefeated and everything, but nobody. Kentucky, everybody was
Kentucky. That team, remember? Yeah. With Town on it. I thought they had a chance, but it's really hard. But Gonzaga is looking good. I would love to see it. I would definitely love to see it. It would also be the first title ever, so it would be nice.
Yeah. I just think it's a lot. It's a lot of pressure now. Nowadays with social media and all the coverage they get and all that. It's a lot different than when it's just very different than when Russell was doing it on San Francisco or Walton at UCLA, or Kareem UCLA. It's a lot different. What do you got, Yuri?
There we go. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to go along the same lines with Omar, and I'm going to continue giving some abrazos. And I got to give an abrazo to a guy that we didn't get to see much of this past season. A guy that we didn't get to give many abrazos to for his play because, well, he didn't do much either. I'm talking about Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman standing up and speaking out against Myers Leonard of Miami, who on Tuesday this week, a video was released of him using some pretty tough language, some derogatory language, some anti-Semitic language during some a video game stream. And Edelman stood up. Edelman stood up and pretty much wrote an open letter on Twitter that he released on Twitter. And I mean, I recommend everyone to look it up and really read Edelman's letter, who, by the way, is Jewish. But a part of that letter, the part of that letter that caught my attention the most, that really stood out to me, is something that we've all dealt with, guys. Growing up as Latino Americans, growing up in a world that sometimes can be, not so receiving. What caught my attention the most, like I was saying, is these words. He goes, "Casual ignorance is harder to combat and has greater reach, especially when you command great influence." Casual ignorance. That's such a lovely way to put it. And I think, I know what that is. Some people don't understand, don't realize, they don't do it intentionally. They don't realize that they're being derogatory. They don't realize that they're hurting other people's feelings. They don't realize that, well, they're being racist. But that's just as hurtful and perhaps even more hurtful and more damaging than anything else, because that gets passed on, and that's the kind of thing that we've been fighting for such a long time. I love that Julian Edelman stood up in the way that he said it. Honestly, just a big abrazo to Julian Edelman and a big abrazo to Myers Leonard, who also is in need of one right now.
Yeah, it's obviously very subtle racism is very prevalent, and overt racism is very prevalent here too. But hopefully, generation to generation, start getting rid of that more and more. I'm gonna go. Well, Omar stole mine, so I think I'm gonna go with. Luckily, I come with backups because I'm always the last one to do it, right?
Yeah, but you always blame me for stealing yours.
No, I think Omar is blames you for stealing it. Right. So I'm gonna go with. I'll stick to my fight stuff. So I'm gonna give to a couple of abrazos. One to Amanda Nunes for being the absolute GOAT. Like, she destroyed destroyed her opponent on Saturday, and she's basically cleaned out the division. There's nobody left for her to fight. And then I also want to give a big abrazo to Israel Adesanya as well. Despite losing, he did have the balls to move up 20 pounds in weight class and try to take on Jan Blachowicz, who's a huge puncher at light heavyweight. And, he held his own up there, but at the end of the day, obviously 20 pounds is 20 pounds in the fight game. It's tough to overcome that. And, he said, you got to dare to dream big. And he did. And, like he said, I'm just going to go out and clean out the 185 division again. So certainly a big hug for daring to do that to Izzy.
I actually thought Izzy was going to win that fight, but I agree with you. The size difference was just too much, and that was evident. But what I wanted to point out was that was one of the classiest post-fight interactions I've seen between two fighters in the UFC ever. I mean, it was so much respect for one another, and they barely even knew each other, but you could see them really just sharing some good moments, trying to laugh. It was just really cool to see that interaction between them after the fight, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the lost in translation stuff too when they were talking to each other.
Yes.
Adesanya was asking him to be his bodyguard. He's like, "You pay well? How much?"
and by the way, you mentioned Nunez. Julian told me I could kick her butt. So, you feel good.
Julian lied to you.
Yeah. When he's older and understands a little more, we'll show him some more stuff. And
my son believes in his daddy, boy. He believes in his daddy. Okay. Just don't tell Amanda. Just don't tell Amanda Nunez.
How long do you think you would last in a ring with her?
I wouldn't get in the ring with her. Are you crazy? I wouldn't get in the ring. I'm not stupid.
So one of our classic drinking games is always like scenarios like, do you think you can, right? And I remember my cousin Edwin saying that if he had his coworker lead blocking for him, that he can score off of Ray Lewis from the 10-yard line. And I'm like, you'd be shitting your pants before the ball was even snapped. And then we just continue sending him videos of Ray Lewis just blowing like 350-pound NFL linemen off the line, right?
I always feel that those are the dumbest things to say. One of my younger brother Mark's friends just last week told me, his buddy Kevin says he's never played baseball in his life, but he swears he can hit a 90-mile-an-hour fastball. Are you ridiculous?
I used to always believe I can last one round with pretty boy Floyd.
That's the kind of mentality. That's the kind of mentality that makes you believe that it should be up to the fighter whether the fight continues on. That's the kind of mentality right there. That's it.
Here's what you think you could return a serve from Serena?
God no! I couldn't see it. No.
Omar's thinking about it. Oh,
yes, he is. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He goes, I can do it with my feet. I was a goalkeeper. I was city champion.
I think I would hit it. I don't know if I'll return it, but I think I would hit it.
Get out of here. Let's get out of here.
10 pitches from Mariano Rivera. You know what's coming. It's a cutter.
Yeah.
Can you hit it?
Yeah.
Well, guys, we reached the end of this episode of today's Leches Sports Podcast. Be sure to follow us on all of our social medias, and be sure to tune in next week for our latest episode. For Yuri Berenguer, for Mark Cabrera, I'm Gilly Matzos. Have a great week, guys.
Take care, boys. You get hit. Yeah, right. Return from Serena. Crazy.
Oh, man.
You thought about it.
He did.